How do I know if it's recording? Yes.
Yes, it's recording.
You see? Okay. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Perfect. Okay. So we are here speaking with Frédéric Barnier at Maison Louis Jadot, and we are going to discuss the 2019 vintage in Burgundy, in the Côte d'Or in specific, and things that we all need to know about 2019. So I thought I would start by asking Frédéric in a few short words, for those of you that don't have time, to tell us a bit about 2019 from his viewpoint.
Okay. So thanks, Kurt. Hi, everyone. So very briefly, if we have to, I would say, summarize what happened in 19, I will probably start with an important fact, which is the dryness during the full season. 19 is globally a vintage where we had a certain lack of water, and it's quite important to know it to understand, I would say, probably the touch of the vintage. So the winter was clearly driest as usual, and we started the cycle with a lack of 30-40% of what we are used to have during the winter. The second, I would say, fact, which is important to understand the vintage, is an early bud break due to an incredible month of February, which was very cool and sometimes we could say hot for the months for this, I would say, timing. And it has made, unfortunately, an early beginning of the cycle. I say unfortunately, because we had some late frosts in April, beginning and middle of April, which has, of course, destroyed and affected the first, I would say, vine plants, the first leaves, because of this early bud break. The second part of the season, part May, was, I would say, 50. Not, I would say, not so good. The weather was sometimes a little bit rainy. We had some cold temperature, especially during the first, I would say, flowers, beginning of June, and it explains again the quantity we have made finally for the vintage 19, because 19 is a limited vintage in terms of volume due to these late frost events and difficult blooming in June.
Yeah.
The other part of the season, end of June and July, August, were clearly better in terms of temperature. We had a second part of the season very, very nice, warm, but again with very few rainfall. So it has not made a better volume. It has made the ripeness. It has made the touch of the vintage, which is a ripe vintage, but unfortunately, it does not help us to make a little bit more juice, especially for the whites. Okay. So to summarize, small vintage in terms of volume, because of different events, late frost and difficulties during the flowering, and the second part of the season clearly nice, warm, but globally dry, so it has made a dense and probably rich vintage because of that.
Okay. No, I think
in terms of volume, just to complete, it's half of a normal crop, to give you an idea on the whites, and 2/3 of a normal crop for the reds. So small volume.
Right. So if somebody wanted to summarize in just in few words, you would say that it's a potentially very good vintage, but a very small vintage in terms of volume.
Yeah. If I'm using two words, it's small for the volume and ripe for the or rich for the wines.
Right, right. So to back up to the beginning of the season, so it sounds to me like we're seeing a trend in Burgundy and elsewhere, but in Burgundy, where the winters are warmer than usual and the growing cycle begins earlier than usual, and that creates the conditions in the spring for possible difficulties with flowering or late frost. Is this correct?
Yes. Yeah, that's on average or on general correct. But we have to, as you said, probably if we are looking to the last 10 vintages, we have a bud break on average, an earlier bud break compared to the other 10 past years. I mean, before the 2020 and so on. But exactly as you said, the risk to have some late frost, statistically is also lower because there is clearly a global warming here of the weather in Burgundy. But because of this earlier bud break, the risk we have at the end is probably up compared to what we had in past. So if you look the 5-6 past years, 16 we had some late frost, 17 we had some, 18 not so much, but 19 again, 20 was okay. So there is a risk, and we know it, and probably we have to accept it year after year, vintage after vintage. That's something we have to integrate in our mind, because that's a bigger risk we have now compared to the past vintages. That's right.
And it seems
on the same time, that's very important to understand that from a vintage to another vintage, there is a huge difference. I mean, it's not so consistent from a vintage to another vintage. In fact, if we have to explain the tendance, we have to look to an average of 10 years or 15 years. We have to make some average, I would say, conclusions. But there is a huge inconsistency between a vintage to another vintage. Look, 19, we had a very dry winter and cool. 20, we had a very good reserve of water, and probably a colder vintage compared to 19, but clearly a more, I would say, the quantity of water we had was really, really more important. So from a vintage to another vintage, it's different. It's probably difficult to compare, but that's true that on average, there is a risk of late frost, which is increasing because of an earlier bud break.
Exactly. It seems that you have two challenges. One is that you have earlier bud break, so the vines are exposed earlier than they used to be, and you have then the risk of frost affecting the vines. And then in the summertime, we're seeing increased periods of intense heat, at the same time less water. So you're facing a possible dehydration, possible stress on the vines during the growing season or during the summer season. So it's a two-part challenge, it seems, in some ways.
The first is clearly a very important challenge. I mean, for the quantity. The second point you said is a challenge also for the quantity, but for the quality, that's of course a very important point, because the capacity of our vine plants to resist to sometimes very hot temperatures in summer or in just before the harvest, that's a big point. But we have to say, honestly, to be optimistic, and I am very, very optimistic about it, because if you look to the 20 vintage, we are here to speak about the 19 vintage, but just a few words about the last vintage, the 20 vintage. 20 vintage was a very special vintage in Burgundy, not also because of the COVID, but of course, because it was picked very, very early. We had an incredible early season compared to the average years. It's really the first time that 90% of the grapes in Burgundy have been picked in August. But in terms of balance, in terms of style of wines, we have picked incredibly fresh grapes compared to ripe vintages we could have done in past. So it means that the vine plants have a certain capacity to resist and to find water very, very deep in our soils. On our slope, we have a certain reserve of water in our soils. So it's not only a question of quantity of water, but really a question when it's coming. Because small quantity of water, if it's coming at the right moment, when the vine plants need it, it's not so much a problem. I mean, we don't need a lot of water. We just need what we need at the right moment. So that's why from a vintage to another vintage, it's difficult to make some conclusions, because we have to look at it very precisely to understand better how much water we need, when we need it, and to understand better what happened outside.
Exactly. For instance, so talking about timing, thinking about the summer period heading up to the harvest in 2019, it seems that it was hot, it was dry, but there was no great turbulence, no hailstorms to speak of, no enormous, violent weather effects. Did you find that the fruit, when you did harvest it, it was very ripe? Was it very clean? Was the sanitary condition improved?
Correct, yes. The 19 vintage, as the 18 vintage, as the 20 vintage, were clearly absolutely in terms of quality of fruit, beautiful. I mean, nothing to sort out. No botrytis, no gray rot. Again, the botrytis, it's developing on the fruits when you have a certain humidity in the air. So botrytis, it likes the water, certain heat and water. And it was quite warm in August and beginning of September in 19, but so dry, so no botrytis. So that's true that the quality of our crop in terms of sanitary states was absolutely beautiful in 19. Again, in terms of sorting out, it was so easy to choose the fruit because there is no choice to make. So easy to do. But the challenge was more what you said before. It was the question to react in September to a very, I would say, quick increasing of the ripeness, especially on the whites. Because remember what I said about the vintage in general. We have made a very small crop, small volume. We had a lot of milrandage. One of the very key facts on the vintage was a lot of milrandage due to the difficult flowering. And on milrandage, small berries, on a warm ambiance, as we had in September, we had just before to pick a quick increasing of the ripeness, just the last days before to pick. So it was very important to react immediately, and especially for the whites, to pick it not too late, not to have extreme richness or over ripeness on the whites.
Exactly.
So that's probably it was the challenge of the vintage, because we had a concentration. It was not so much maturation. I mean, it is a evolution of the sugar, which are increasing. The acidity is declining on the same time. That's the ripeness, what we call ripeness or maturation. In 19, because of the warm weather we had, because of some wind from south, we had a certain concentration. So it has concentrated very quickly the sugar, but on the same time, the acidity, which was good, because at the end, we have picked rich grapes, rich fruit, but very, very nice, very fresh fruit. So that's something which is, I would say, a good point for the vintage 19.
Sure. And something that I've heard from several people writing about the vintage. Number one, that many growers were frankly quite surprised by how clean the fruit was, how ripe the fruit was, but how fresh the wines seemed to be as they are coming together.
Yeah, that's clear that the concentration has concentrated also the acidity. So the pH, the freshness, the feeling of freshness is very good on the vintage 19 because you feel it very well. You have the density, the richness of the vintage because there is naturally a certain level of alcohol. Clearly, you feel it very well. It's an opulent and rich vintage, whites and reds, but you know, on your palate, which is very important, it's the balance between this, I would say, opulence and the freshness, the acidity, and the concentration we had has helped us to maintain a very good level of acidity, very good freshness. So if you are looking to the analysis, the level of the acidity compared to other vintages, it's quite very good. And clearly, it's one of the good, I would say, points because of the vintage, because we have a rich vintage, but on the same time, a very well-balanced vintage.
Right. So after the harvest and the fermentation commenced, did you find that the fermentations were relatively easy, spontaneous?
Yeah.
No problem?
Yeah. We clearly nothing difficult or nothing special to say about the vinification process, the fermentation. It was quite classic, if not to say an easy vintage to make. As you know, most of time when you have no botrytis, nothing to sort out, I would say when you have saved certain purity of the fruit, there is no reason to have any problem during the maceration or the fermentation. Just maybe the only fact it's sometimes a certain richness on the fruit to digest, but again, thanks a very good level of acidity. I'm talking especially for the whites. It was easy to keep some malic acid to disturb a little bit the malolactic fermentation and to make sure to maintain the balance we were targeting. So on the reds, clearly for me it was not a challenging vintage as a winemaker. It was a challenging vintage probably more for the question of volume because we were a little bit disappointed sometimes by what we have picked in terms of quantity due to the difficulties during the flowering and the tislet frost. On the whites, it was probably more challenging just to play with the acidity, the potential of the freshness we had. So to block the malolactic fermentation at the good moment, just again to fight the opulence, the richness of the vintage due to the last days we had just before to pick.
Yeah, and you still have, even though it's difficult with COVID, obviously you still maintain 3 teams of pickers to work in the vintage?
3 teams, yes, 3 teams of pickers, 2 in Côte de Beaune, 1 from the south part of Côte de Beaune, from Bouzeron, Rully, Centenay to Montely, so including Meursault, Chassagne, and so on. Another one for the north part of Côte de Beaune, so clearly around Beaune, Savigny, Pernan, Ladois, Corton, etc. And the last one for Côte de Nuit. We started by some whites and some reds in Côte de Beaune the first week. So we started the 11th September to be precise. Quite on the middle of September. And immediately after the second week, we started in Côte de Nuit. We have decided not to wait too much. To start in Côte de Nuit again, just to make sure not to pick something to overreach. So it was important for us to save a certain freshness. And the good news was the fact that we immediately after the 3-4 days of picking, we have seen that the skins were ripe. So when you have the end of the season, which is a little bit dry, as we had in 19, sometimes you could be afraid about to have a maturity in alcohol, nice, but the skins not so ripe. And the skins, of course, it's very important because it includes the tannins, the color, the flavors. What you expect it's something to have round tannins, soft tannins, delicate tannins, and of course fruitiness, not vegetal flavors. So you need a certain ripeness in your skins. And clearly, this phenolic maturity, what we call the phenolic maturity, so the skin maturity, we had it, and it was the good timing to pick around the 10-15 September.
Okay. On that note, do you find that, I know, we've spoken before, and you mentioned the idea that you want not just maturity in terms of ripeness, sugar content, potential alcohol, but you need ripeness, phenolic ripeness to make a complete wine. Do you find that by waiting for that phenolic ripeness, that you're ultimately ending up with wines where the alcohol is beginning to go higher and higher, or no?
In fact, it's the same as the other, I would say, facts we have discussed before. It's difficult to make to generalize. I mean, it could happen. It could happen to be necessary to wait. So it means that probably you will wait for your phenolic maturity, and at the same time you will gain some degree of alcohol. But look, 18 was not so high in degree of alcohol, 20 was not so high in degree of alcohol, on a very warm, I would say, ambiance, and we have not made monsters. I mean, and 19, it's rich, okay, it's rich, but it's around 14 degree of alcohol. Okay, naturally, so it's good, it's quite high, I mean, on average, but it's not a monster. So I have the feeling, and it's what we are living vintage after vintage, that we are very lucky in Burgundy because this phenolic maturity, this skins maturity is coming quite early with our grape varieties. I mean, on the Chardonnay, in using the Pinot Noir, we have this great chance to have this phenolic maturity, which is coming on general, on the good timing, on the good window, not so late. Right. Pinot Noir and Chardonnay have not a potential of phenolic materials so high. I mean, you are not farming Cabernet or Merlot or Syrah, which are darker with a very important structure. It's delicate grape varieties, and it's a chance because here sometimes we are at the limit. You need to save the freshness. We need to save the freshness year after year, and there is no, I would say, surprise. It's why we are using Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. It's because it works. It works outside with the weather we have, and for the moment, I really feel and I really optimistic about the fact that our grape varieties are resisting very well to the evolution of the weather we have.
Sure. Maybe switching slightly from the vineyard to the wines themselves. So we cannot speak of every wine, but in general, we know the volumes are reduced, the wines are concentrated. There was a frost incident in Chassagne affecting whites, so volumes there are down.
Yeah, you're right. It's globally, if from north to south, it's quite a consistent vintage in terms of volume. Unfortunately, there is not so much surprise in terms of volume. No. Chablis has made a small crop, Côte d'Or has made a small crop, and Mâconnais has made a small crop. On the whites, everywhere from north to south, it's not far to be half of a normal crop.
Okay.
Chassagne-Montrachet, you're right, it's one of the worst places in terms of volume, but you know, between 25 hectoliters compared to 30 hectoliters, there is not so much difference. We have to say globally there is 50% of a normal crop everywhere from Chablis to Mâconnais in 19. Again, due to the late frost and flowering, blooming was key. I mean, of course, the frost has affected some areas, but what happened during the blooming, cold weather, too much rain, it's probably more important as what happened during the frost. But yes, you're right.
Okay.
Globally, it's a consistent vintage for the volume. After that, there is another challenge. We spoke about the freshness, the balance of the wines to save again a nice palette between the richness and the acidity. But of course, it's not to make whites too much tannic, because when you press small yield on the whites, sometimes you could extract too much from the skin. So it was important to adapt the pressing, just to make a slight pressing, which is difficult to make on a small vintage as 19, because on the same time you want to save volume. So if you press, if you are soft on your pressing, you have not a yield which is better. It's the contrary. It's the opposite. So it's difficult, I would say, mentally to be soft in terms of pressing on a such vintage, but it was clearly necessary just to make sure to extract the juice and not to make a phenolic vintage on the whites. If you remember the 12th vintage, 12 was the same, I would say, situation for the whites, very small vintage in terms of volume. And it was the same challenge, not to extract too much from the skins. It works for the reds because you macerate the skins with the juice. But for the whites, what we need, it's the juice, not so much what is inside the skins.
Exactly. In a way, somewhat like 2016 on the whites. You have to be careful.
Yeah, for the areas where 16 was affected by frost, because you remember 16 vintage for the whites was not so much consistent as 19 is. I mean, in 16, in some areas, we have made the full yield, the classic yield, full, and some other areas affected by the late frost, we have made nothing. So in fact, in 16, sometimes we have produced 5 hectoliters for an hectare and sometimes 45. In 19, it's different. Everywhere, it's around 30 hectoliters, 35 hectoliters for an hectare from the north to the south.
Okay. Are there any highlight terroirs that you would point out as being especially successful?
Well, as you know, Kurt, it's difficult for me to choose one of my child. I'm not allowed. It's not allowed for a father like me to make this such choice. But again, me, I was surprised. You know, this year because we have aged the 19 vintage during the year 20, which was, as everybody is knowing, a very special year. And we had on the same time this virus and a very early vintage to pick, the 20 vintage. So in fact, we had not so much opportunities to taste 19 vintage from June to September, end of September, because less customers here in our wineries. You have not visited us, of course. No one has visited us, so we had less opportunities to taste it. And me, I had not so much ideas about this vintage 19. When I came back to the vintage in September, I was, honestly, I said, wow, it's tasting very, very, very well. 19 is a tasty vintage. You will see, you have tasted some. It's a very approachable vintage to taste. The whites are juicy, rich, that's true. It's a dense and rich vintage, but again, on the same time, they are very well balanced. You feel it They have rich of sugar, of alcohol, but rich of acidity. So it makes a very consistent vintage, delicious, very approachable. And the reds are not so impressive as some 18 or some 20. So I mean, it's not so dark. It's but they are very bright, and same, very tasty, fruity and round, but dense. I mean, it's not a light vintage. It's a bright and absolutely delicious vintage to taste. So yeah, difficult to make a choice for an area because honestly, this morning, for example, I had a Centenay-Claude Malt 19, a village, not so well known as the Gevrey-Chambertin or the Chambol Premier Cru, but just a beautiful wine. So it's probably a vintage where you could be confident in having, small villages, less known areas as the Marsanais, the Centenay wines, the Ladois, the Bouzeron, the wines which are on the paper less, I would say, rated as the top wines. The great places are beautiful, but all the range is showing very, very well. So it's not the good answer for you because I'm not highlighting one place, but honestly, I have to say it's not, because it's a consistent vintage. Again, it's a vintage where there is not an area which was affected by something special compared to another one. We had not hailstorm, so the weather we had in 19, we had it everywhere. The mille rendage, we had it on the whites as on the reds, and we had it in Côte de Nuit as in Côte de Beaune. So globally, there is a certain consistency on the vintage, but all the wines we have produced are showing quite well, honestly. And it's a vintage. Alors, it's a little bit a shame because it's coming on a difficult moment on the market, but it's a vintage for the market, made to show, to be shared, because easy to understand. For people who are afraid by Burgundy, this is a perfect vintage because it's tasty. I mean, people will love it for sure.
Sure. It sounds like you're saying that the wines will show very well when they're young. They'll be refreshing. They'll be classic in terms of being transparent to each climat, each terroir.
Because there is no over ripeness. I mean, it's not. We have saved a certain definition on all the different wines we have produced, so it's precise. It's rich, but it's not over rich, so it has not crushed the origin of the grapes.
Yeah. And for me, I think it's very interesting to think about 2019 as the middle vintage between 18 and 20, because for me it's okay, we don't know what happens in 21, we will see, but for me it's interesting to think about three potentially very, very good vintages, but each one unique from the other two.
What you say is very important because 18, 19, 20, it's a little bit early to speak about quality, but yes, you're right. We are confident. We feel that we have probably a third very nice vintage in our hands. But three different vintages, very good, but for different reasons. 18 was a very generous vintage, full vintage, warm vintage, but we had some water, so it's a juicy vintage. It was an incredible vintage. I mean, difficult to have better conditions to make juice, fruits, and good wines. 19 was probably more challenging for different reasons. Again, we said it before, but the wines are absolutely beautiful because the fruits were very nice. And 20, so early, everybody was afraid to make ripe wines. And it's absolutely not a warm vintage in terms of wine. It's a fresh vintage. You will see the 20 vintage is a very classic vintage in terms of style of wine. So three vintages with very different weather, with finally quite the same result, because globally it's a warm year and early vintages compared to what we had before. But in terms of style, in terms of season, very different. So, and you cannot compare 20 to 19, 19 to 18, and so on. It's very different. So yes, and it's why it's probably a challenge for the 19 vintage, because 19 is coming on the market, after 18, which was a great vintage. Everybody is already knowing that 20 is probably another good vintage. And of course, it's coming on the moment where everybody is a little bit scared about what happened. So I hope 19 won't be, I would say, the victim. I mean the accident of this of the moment. Yeah. But because it's not fair for this vintage. It's really a great vintage for the market, because it's again very tasty and juicy and easy to you understand it. It's talking to you very very softly. So that's important.
No, it sounds. I think the answer for everyone is obvious. You buy all three vintages and be happy. We're all forced to stay in our homes these days, but that doesn't mean we are drinking any less Burgundy. So we all need plenty of good wine to help us get through. Do you have any last thoughts about 2019? I think we mentioned that it's very charming, accessible, pure, classic vintage, which will bring a lot of pleasure. Of course, there are those people that want to buy wines to put in their cellars for 10 years, 20 years.
Yeah.
I would imagine these wines would hold up well, young and old.
Absolutely, yeah. That's important. Yes, what you say about the fact that it's an approachable vintage now. The wines are showing very well. As you said, they're charming, but it doesn't mean that there is not a potential of aging. The wines have a certain density, concentration, a richness. Again, the fruits were so pure and beautiful. I mean, we everything is made to be very optimistic about the capacity of this vintage to be aged many decades. So for the whites, 10 years, it's not so huge challenge. So we are very confident with that. And for the reds, maybe yes, 1 or 2 or 3 decades for the top wines. No worries about that, for sure.
Perfect. So I think we've covered everything. Is there anything that I haven't mentioned, or any last thoughts that you think are important for people to know about 2019?
Well, 19 was for us the first vintage where we have made the Chablis wines in Chablis. So for us, one of, I would say, the key fact about the vintage was to have opened a new winery, a new facility in Chablis for the Chablis Village, Premier Crus and Grand Cru. So that's important to know. It was, I would say, as you know, it's the way we do the things. It's to be on the heart of each place, each vineyard, to do the best as possible. So in Côte Chalonnaise for the regional wines, in Beaune for the Côte d'Or wines, in Chablis to make the Chablis wine. So for us it was I would say a new birth, a new place, and it has worked very well. So we were very happy to make the Chablis wines there.
Good. Now the Chablis is, I thank you for reminding me about that, because the Chablis is a very important development and very, very exciting for us in the market, as it is for you. And we're very happy that the winery is now functioning in Chablis, and I cannot wait to visit.
Yeah, and now I think that we have good partners. We have stabilized the sourcing. We have this new facility. We are, I would say, rebuilding a part. We are improving the place. You will visit it soon. I'm sure it's now we have I would say, the tools to really be consistent and to make better and better year after year, step by step, our Chablis wines, and to work. I would say better in Chablis in this region, which is clearly a region where there is a huge potential in terms of quality and diversity.
Exactly. Going all the way to the other side of Burgundy in the south, the wines from Mâcon are again diminished in quantity in 2019, but the quality is still there.
Yeah, so same as in Côte d'Or. In fact, in terms of quantity, unfortunately, because as you know, the south part of Burgundy, the bud break is a little bit earlier, so the frost was quite strong in the north part of Mâconnais, so for the Mâcon village, a part of Pouilly-Fuissé, so the yield are quite low. But the quality is there. I mean, it's a rich, dense vintage. The challenge was the same as in Côte d'Or. It was to pick it not too late. But they had some water in August. We had not so much water here in Côte d'Or. They had a little bit more water in 19 during the summer in Mâconnais, especially in Pouilly-Fuissé. So the vintage, I would say the timing, the window of picking was not exactly the same in Mâconnais as we here, because they had not this increasing of the maturity just before to pick, thanks this water they had beginning of August. Here in Côte d'Or, it was quite dry, so less water. It means a slow evolution of the maturity, but it means on the same time a concentration, and it could be a challenge to choose your date of picking, because you never know when it will go up.
Yeah. And last, I have to mention my favorite appellation, Beaune. So the Beaune Premier Cruise did well in 2019.
Yeah.
We will have
it did very well.
Good.
It did very well. You could be very confident. The Cras, the Couchereau, the Boucherotte, the Clos des Ursules, Arbonne, Grève, Le Teuron. It's and the whites also, Grève. Yeah. Less quantity as usual, but it's a very nice area. This morning we had the Clos des Ursules 19 during a tasting, and yes, it's a beautiful vintage also for Beaune, which is an early place. It has been picked the very first days in 19, so the 11th September. We started by some whites for a team, and the other team was in Beaune, because it was, and it's something which is doing like this quite every year. It's an early area. Beaune now there is a ripeness which is coming quite early compared to the other places. So it's why it's important to start not too late in Beaune to pick ripe fruit, but not too ripe fruit.
Right.
So exactly. Beaune is a beautiful area. You could be very confident.
Good. Well, we will look forward to showing the Beaune wines and all of the wines to our customers over the course of the coming weeks. We are in our pre-sale period now, unfortunately, without you visiting us, which is a shame. But we do our best.
I hope to be back soon. To be back for sure. I hope next year. Probably not before, but yes, I'm a little bit sad not to be with you, because that's a pleasure for me to be there every year, and it's one of the moment in my year which are making a vintage. So my US trip is always a very good trip. So it's like this. We have to work screen by screen. It's not face by face, face to face, but screen to screens. It's working like this. But I hope you will enjoy the vintage 19 again. You will see it's a very tasty and approachable vintage. So I'm sure you will love it.
Yeah. Well, we look forward to tasting it with our customers, selling lots of cases, and bringing them to the market as soon as we can, and to seeing you in Beaune sometime in the future when we can.
Yeah, we are waiting for you. We are waiting for everyone. We hope that the next months will be I would say the end of this incredible moment we are living, thanks the vaccine. So we will see. We will see what happens. We have to stay patient. For example, maybe for a few months, but I hope that the second part of the year will be better for to visit, to open the door, and to open the door of our sellers.
We will see. We will see. Okay, I'm going to say goodbye for all of us, and thank you. I'm going to turn off the recording now, like this. There we go. Okay, so stop.